chapter 5, in which Piglet meets a heffalump. One day, when Christopher Robin and Winnie-the-Pooh and Piglet were all talking together, Christopher Robin finished the mouthful he was eating and said carelessly, "I saw a heffalump today, Piglet." "What was it doing?" asked Piglet. "I was just lumping along," said Christopher Robin. "I don't think it saw me." "I saw one once," said Piglet. At least I think I did." Only perhaps it wasn't." "So did I," said Pooh, wondering what a heffalump was like. "Well, you don't often see them," said Christopher Robin carelessly. "Not now," said Piglet. "Not at this time of year," said Pooh. Then they all talked about something else until it was time for Pooh and Piglet to go home together. At first, as they stumped along the path which edged the 100-acre wood, they didn't say much to each other. But when they came to the stream and had helped each other across the stepping stones and were able to walk side by side again over the heather, they began to talk in a friendly way about this and that. And Piglet said, "If you see what I mean, Pooh." And Pooh said, "It's just what I think myself, Piglet." And Piglet said, "But on the other hand, Pooh, we must remember." And Pooh said, "Quite true, Piglet, although I had forgotten it for the moment." And then just as they came to the six pine trees, Pooh looked round to see that nobody else was listening and said in a very solemn voice, "Piglet, I have decided something." "What have you decided, Pooh?" "I have decided to catch a heffalump." Pooh nodded his head several times as he said this and waited for Piglet to say, "How?" or "Pooh, you couldn't," or something helpful of that sort, but Piglet said nothing. The fact was, Piglet was wishing that he had thought about it first. "I shall do it," said Pooh, after waiting a little longer, "by means of a trap. And it must be a cunning trap, so you'll have to help me, Piglet." "Pooh," said Piglet, feeling quite happy again now, "I will." And then he said, "How shall we do it?" And Pooh said, "That's just it. How?" And then they sat down together to think it out. Pooh's first idea was that they should dig a very deep pit, and then the heffalump would come along and fall into the pit. And "Why?" said Piglet. "Why what?" said Pooh. "Well, why would he fall in?" Pooh rubbed his nose with his paw and said that the heffalump might be walking along, humming a little song, and looking up at the sky, wondering if it would rain, and so he wouldn't see the very deep pit until he was halfway down, when it'd be too late. Piglet said that this was a very good trap. But supposing it were raining already? Pooh rubbed his nose again and said that he hadn't thought of that. And then he brightened up and said that if it were raining already, the heffalump would be looking at the sky, wondering if it would clear up, and so he wouldn't see the very deep pit until he was halfway down, when it would be too late. Piglet said that now that this point had been explained, he thought it was a cunning trap. Pooh was very proud when he heard this, and he felt that the heffalump was as good as caught already. But there was just one other thing which had to be thought about, and it was this: where should they dig the very deep pit? Piglet said that the best place would be somewhere where a heffalump was, just because he fell into it only about a foot further on. "But then he would see us digging it," said Pooh. "Yeah, but not if he was looking up at the sky." "Yeah, but he would suspect," said Pooh, "if he happened to look down." He thought for a long time and then added sadly, "It's not as easy as I thought. I suppose that's why heffalumps hardly ever get caught." "That must be it," said Piglet. They sighed and got up, and when they had taken a few gorse prickles out of themselves, they sat down again. And all the time Pooh was saying to himself, "If only I could think of something," for he felt sure that a very clever brain could catch a heffalump if only he knew the right way to go about it. "Suppose," he said to Piglet, "you wanted to catch one. You wanted to catch me. How would you do it?" "Well," said Piglet, "I should do it like this. I should make a trap, and I should put a jar of honey in the trap, and you would smell it, and you would go in after it, and I would go in after it, said Pooh excitedly. Only very carefully, so as not to hurt myself, and I would get to the jar of honey, and I should lick round the edges first of all, pretending that there wasn't any more, and then I'd walk away and think about it a little, and then I should come back and start licking in the middle of the jar, and then, yes, well, never mind about that. There you would be, and there I should catch you. Now, the first thing to think of is, what do heffalumps like? I should think acorns, shouldn't you? We'll get a lot of, I say, wake up, Pooh. Pooh had gone into a happy dream, woke up with a start and said that honey was a much more trappy thing than haycorns. Piglet didn't think so, and they were just going to argue about it when Piglet remembered that if they put acorns in the trap, he would have to find the acorns, but if they put honey, well, then Pooh would have to give up some of his own honey. So he said, all right, honey then, just as Pooh remembered it too, and was going to say, all right, haycorns. Honey, said Piglet to himself in a thoughtful way, as if it were now settled. I'll dig the pit, while you go and get the honey. Oh, very well, said Pooh, and he stumped off. As soon as he got home, he went to the larder, and he stood on a chair and took down a very large jar of honey from the top shelf. It had honey written on it, Hunny, sorry. But just to make sure, he took off the paper cover and looked at it, and it looked just like honey. But you never can tell, said Pooh. I remember my uncle saying once that he had seen cheese, just this colour. So he put his tongue in, and he took a large lick. Yes, he said, it is, no doubt about that. And honey, I should say, right down to the bottom of the jar. Unless, of course, he said, somebody put cheese in at the bottom just for a joke. Perhaps I'd better go a little further, just in case, in case heffalumps don't like cheese, and same as me. And he gave a deep sigh. I was right. It is honey, right the way down. Having made certain of this, he took the jar back to Piglet, and Piglet looked up from the bottom of his very deep pit and said, Got it? And Pooh said, yes, but it isn't quite a full jar, and he threw it down to Piglet, and Piglet said, no, it isn't. Is that all you've got left? And Pooh said, yes, because it was. So Piglet put the jar at the bottom of the pit and climbed out, and they went off home together. Well, good night, Pooh, said Piglet when they got to Pooh's house, and we meet at 6 o'clock tomorrow morning by the pine trees and see how many heffalumps we've got in our trap. 6 o'clock, Piglet. And have you got any string? No. Why do you want string? To lead them home with. Oh, I think heffalumps come if you whistle. Well, some do and some don't. You never can tell with heffalumps. Well, good night. Good night. And off Piglet trotted to his Trespassers W, while Pooh made his preparations for bed. Okay, I'm going to stop there. We'll see tomorrow if they manage to catch a heffalump. Okay, good night, everyone.